welcome to a Monday. You know what that means. Well, regularly it means Monday Night Sports Talk, and we're back on time. It's Monday night on the airnetwork.net. Joining us live from Huntington tonight, looking evil on the screen, at least here in the studio. Chad States from Huntington joining us, along with Dave Shannon live in Altoona and Jimmy Ty live in Johnstown.
Yo.
Gentlemen, welcome
Hello.
to the Monday night edition of Monday Night Sports Talk. We finally got it right. Cable, of course, gave us all the power that we need to, not take over the world, but at least maybe be heard by some of the people in the world. And if you'd like to call in, be on the show, call us up anywhere in the world, 814-619-4286. Again, that's 814-619-4286. You can get in on the Air Network's Monday Night Sports Talk with Greg Banks and the rest of the gang. Hey, guys. Some good news. Tom Bradley got a new job, named defensive coordinator at UCLA this evening. How's that sound, Dave?
I like it. Tom Bradley was a defensive mind. Actually, it would have been nice if the Steelers might have approached him. But,
yeah.
You know, I mean, being a Pittsburgh guy and all. Tom, man, oh, man, a real guy that has the defensive mind. Also, I always thought, too, I mean, they had him on. He would represent Penn State on Stan Saburn's old show.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Show.
Yeah.
And he would always represent Penn State there. And he was so good. He's a well-spoken, very thoughtful guy when he makes comments on things, and also seemed to be the kind of guy that could have some fun. And to me, would be the kind of guy that would have been a good replacement for Dick LeBeau, but that's not going to happen. But God bless him, he's got that job at UCLA.
Hey, Jimmy, he grew up right across the street from Bishop McCourt there on Osborne Street, and the Bradley kids, they are all great athletes. Doc Bradley's kids. I just hate to see him go all the way out to the West Coast, although he was hiding in West Virginia there for a while. What do you think about that hire out in UCLA?
I think it was a good hire for the Bruins. First off, he gets out of the cold weather here in West Virginia, Pennsylvania.
Thank God. Somebody does.
Yeah, but no, it's good for the Johnstown region to know that somebody like Tom Bradley is working as a defensive coordinator for UCLA. He brought Penn State defense up to prominence as linebacker U, so maybe that's what Jim Mora Jr. is thinking.
Hey, Chad, I got to believe, here it is like 4 or 5 years after the fact. The guy should have been hired a long time ago. And I was thinking maybe somebody on the East Coast would have grabbed him up. But unfortunately, there must be a stigma with the Penn State coaches because some of these guys aren't getting hired. Do you think that's the case now?
I would like to hope not, but you just never know. Bradley happened to be the guy who probably had the biggest stigma attached to him because he was the face of Penn State after this all broke out.
Yeah, he was.
So he's the one who sticks with you, not Larry Johnson, not Vanderlinden, and none of the other assistants. It was pretty much Bradley's whose face you saw on the sidelines there after everything happened. So, I think it's a great move for Tom. I think it's, going out to the West Coast. UCLA's got a great football program.
Oh, yeah.
They really do. And he's going to coach under Jim Mora Jr., and I wish him the best of luck. I think he's going to do very well out there.
Well, we're wishing him best of luck, Tom Bradley, heading to the left coast, as it is, to be the defensive coordinator at UCLA. Meanwhile, Dave Shannon in Altoona, Chad States, Huntington, Jimmy Ty in Johnstown, Greg Banks in the studio. Let's get started, guys. Let me pose this question to you, Chad, and then we'll go round robin here. The Big Ten is now considering making freshmen ineligible to play in sports, including football and basketball. Is this feasible or likely to happen soon? And is this perhaps a slap in the face of maybe if the NCAA embraces this, the Kentucky basketball squad? Do you think there's a reason for this, Chad?
I don't know what the reason is. I just heard this afternoon, and just in passing. I don't know why the Big Ten's thinking about this, and I don't know how the Big Ten can do it without the NCAA going full force with everybody else. Because let's face it, if you're a great freshman athlete, are you going to go to the Big Ten now? No, you're not, because you're not going to play. You're going to have to redshirt. And it really doesn't work in basketball with the one and done. So I don't know why the Big Ten is kind of sticking their neck out with this. It doesn't make sense to me.
What do you think, maybe, Dave, because Northwestern is kind of pushing, and not the actual school, but the students were pushing for a union, and this is maybe a way to slap them in the face and say, we're going to control you guys now. So we're going to show you who's boss, because I guess apparently either the conferences are feeling like they're losing some control or the NCAA is.
I think it's a little bit of a publicity stunt by the Big Ten. I think they're trying to get in front of what really isn't a problem in my mind. Let's face it, the NBA is using college basketball as their minor league, and if somebody's that good, then he's going to be able to make that quick jump.
Yeah.
You also look at, with the exception of the arena leagues, it's also the minor leagues of the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Neither one of these major corporations, NFL or NBA, have official minor leagues. There's a D League there in the NBA, but it's not really made a whole lot of. And you got, players from different organizations, or as they say in Canada, organizations.
Right.
Anyway. They have these organizations, and there's different players from different franchises on the same team. Yeah. So there is no real minor league for these. And to be honest with you, if this is the way it's going to continue to happen, and I don't blame these young men that have an ability and decide to go, because you're not young forever.
Yeah.
Take advantage of
money
all you can.
Take the money and run.
Yeah.
Hey, Jimmy, real quick. If the NCAA would embrace such an idea, especially in football and basketball, especially basketball, because we're seeing Kentucky, they're running a string of victories here, and I think they got a couple of games left, if I'm not mistaken, maybe one. And I remember you mentioning Arkansas, and they're on the schedule. I'm a freshman basketball player, and I'm asked to be redshirted and ineligible so I can stem the tide going to the NBA. I don't go to college. I just head over to Europe and play. Yeah. Is that what you would do?
As a basketball player, if I was a 5-star recruit, and I knew I wasn't going to play my freshman year, I would go over to Europe,
make that money.
I would play a year in Europe. There's a player who's from San Diego a couple years ago.
Right.
Made that jump because they said, you know what, you're going to redshirt. He said, no, I'm not. He goes over.
Yeah.
I forget. I think he played like in Japan or something like that.
Yeah.
He plays for 1 year over there, and then he jumps back over to the NBA. He's a bench warmer in the NBA. Yeah. I think he's playing for the Sixers right now, but still, you would see a lot of basketball. I'm not going to say football as much.
Yeah.
But you would see basketball players making that jump over
to Europe,
going to Europe, playing for that year, and then coming back and getting drafted.
Well, I don't know what the CFL procedure is, but if I'm a football player and the CFL would let me enter their draft, or, they only take so many Americans, Chad, don't you think that perhaps then we see an influx of people leaving America, playing in Canada for a couple of years, and then coming into the NFL draft? You see that happening?
I don't know so much about the NFL. A lot of freshmen get redshirted coming out of high school anyway. College football. So I'm not as concerned about it with a football standpoint, because that happens a lot. It's basketball where the big impact is, because these guys are coming out. It's a freshman game. Look at Kentucky. Yeah. Look at Duke. Look at some of your big programs. Yeah. It's a one and done freshman game, and this really impacts the NCAA at that level. And if I'm a top 20, 30 freshmen, and the Big Ten says, hey, guess what? You can't play. You got a red shirt. I'm going to look at another opportunity. It's going to weaken the league is what it's going to do.
Well, you know what I thought first off the bat after I looked at this story this afternoon? I'm a kid in an urban area. Let's say New York City. I live in Harlem. My mother and I live in a two-bedroom home. There's 8 people living there. I need to make some money for my parents. I'm not going to play in the NCAA that first year if I can make money. So are there some racial overtones here? Because think of the percentage of black kids that are playing basketball as freshmen versus whites now, okay? And I want you guys to really take a hard look at this. And also, if you break it down, and you can go to the NCAA and Google this on what the percentage is, and you're going to find a big percentage of these young kids coming from impoverished areas. They're trying to get to the bigs as quick as they can, Dave. So do you think they'll just basically, the NCAA could have a problem with this right off the bat?
It depends on how easy that path becomes, Greg, for them to do something different than college in order to get to the NBA.
Yeah.
If that path gets to be a good path for them to maybe go to Europe and play or some other country and go right into the NBA, spend a year at one of those foreign country leagues and then make it to the NBA, different story. But for right now, I don't see that path. You can find any number of success stories that come out of the European leagues or other leagues. But until that happens, and you bring up a good point. I mean, these young men are trying to help their families get out of poverty or whatever. And they're looking at their path to whatever their income is going to be. And that's probably, they spent a lot of time. Let's also look at this. God bless them. They took a lot of their life, and instead of spending it doing something else, they spent all that time on the courts in the cities. And that's why they're as good as they are.
Just as you mentioned last week to Carlton about being a gym rat. I mean, these kids basically are spending the time on the hardwoods or out on the asphalt courts.
Asphalt, absolutely.
And you have, I'm sorry. And
Go
you
ahead,
also have to, and you also have to look at academics. If you look at a kid like an African American child, like Shane Battier, he played 4 years at Duke, honor student.
Right.
You look at that. He had the grades to stay in at Duke. And then you look at a player such as like John Wall, who came from inner city Charlotte, who didn't want to go to school. I'm going to play 1 year in the league. I mean, I'll play 1 year at Kentucky and that way I don't have to finish my degree.
Well, here's the other thing.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah, if you
look
Google
at the academics.
Yeah, I was kind of interested, so I Googled it today. If you get into the NCAA rather deeply, you'll find out that most of these kids had really good grades in high school. Not all of them, mind you, but a lot of them did, and they cited two recent players in the NBA who came out early, and both of those guys had exceptional grades in college. I mean, they didn't have to stay 4 years. And, the fact of the matter is, just like Larry Fitzgerald, you'll go back to school someday in your life because now you've got the money. I remember Kenny Jackson coming back on campus, Dave, at Penn State back in, the early 80s to finish up his degree. You know what I mean? Because he finally had the money to finish up school, even though he was on scholarship. Although I did tell Kenny he had to dress a little bit better because he had these high-water pants on. I'm like, dude, you're making money. Buy some real pants.
There is a story, Greg.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Real quick, a story I saw on ESPN. Willie Cauley-Stein.
Okay, yeah.
The exceptional basketball player from Kentucky.
Right.
Said, quote, I don't like to go to class. I don't want to go to class because it bores me.
Yeah.
Because I don't like these classes they're giving me. So Tyler Perry's like, okay, why don't you read a book and tell me what that book's about?
Yeah, okay.
So players like that don't want to go to class.
Well, here again, the quarterback that brought Ohio State to prominence this year. How many games did he play, guys? Like, I think 3, Chad?
3.
In his whole career? He stated a couple years ago to mass media, I don't know why we have to go to school. Well, his whole mind changed now. You know what I mean? Because now he's happy to be in school because now he can get a little bit more experience, and he's going to probably go high in the draft. A lot of people thought he was coming out this year after those 3 games, and he thought better of it. And that's probably a good thing. A good thing. Yeah. Let's move on to the next topic of who is the number 1 quarterback to be selected in the NFL draft, Mariota or Winston. Jimmy, you can tell us why, and then we'll go to Dave and then Chad. Who's number 1 this year?
Oh, that's a hard question. I would say they're going to look at Jameis Winston in his background.
Right.
Winston is the more talented out of the 2, I believe.
Yes.
But when the NFL does their investigations, they're going to look at the background, whenever he went to Publix and stole crab legs and standing up at FSU screaming obscenities. They're going to look at that. So I think it's going to be Marcus Mariota going to go first because of the background.
Now, I'm watching the Combine today, and Tampa Bay basically says, if we get that first pick, we're picking Winston. And they've already done the background check. Dave, what's your feeling on who goes as number 1 quarterback this year?
The only worry that I have about either of the 2 young men in question is their mental state. How easily they're tripped up to forget exactly what it is they're doing, their thought processes.
Yeah.
I think Jameis Winston has Jimmy pointed out, is just an outstanding athlete.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, the first place I'd send him if I'm an NBA or I'm sorry, an NFL team, the first place I'd send him is to the psychiatrist to get his mind straight and not worry about the things that can distract you.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of don't put yourself in a situation where you can be distracted.
Well, Chad, I think he's surrounding himself with mentors, people who have been in the league already who have come forth and are going to work with this guy. So what's your decision on who goes number one this year?
I agree with Jimmy and with Dave here that Winston's the most talented of the two. And I actually think that he had shown good composure in he played, despite stealing crab legs, despite standing up and inciting basically what is a lesser known riot, so to speak, at Florida State. I actually thought that he did quite well on the football field like that. They said that he took a number of tests while at the combine and scored very high.
One of the highest in years.
That's exactly right.
Of any quarterback.
His intelligence level is there, but as Dave pointed out, it's about composure.
Yeah.
Does the guy, the NFL is so much about the individual now, and can he stay out of trouble? Can he keep his nose to the grindstone? We see examples like Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
Manziel is, he was just a terrible pick for the Browns.
Yeah.
With that said, Mariota doesn't bring any of those problems to a football team.
No.
What he brings is, can he adapt his style to the NFL style? So, Winston's probably better set to be an NFL quarterback
Mariota,
right now with the
though,
skills that he brings.
Yeah, if he goes to Philadelphia, he can adapt his style because obviously, that would be the way.
That's going to be tough. He's going to have to fall in the draft, and the Eagles are going to have to give up at least Nick Foles and probably their 20th pick in the draft.
Yeah.
So, it just depends on how far he falls in the draft.
Well, I think what's going to help and benefit Winston is the fact that he's working with these mentors, people like Chris Carter, Hall of Famer, and some other people. And not only that, but think about this. He comes into camp. These veterans already know, and I'll tell you, when Carlton Hasselrig had been in camp for several years, he lit up some of those guys that were coming in. He got them straight, and so did Kiesel now, and so, I'm sure Harrison does. So when they see these rookies coming in, they get them straight off the bat. Hey, you're playing now with men. You're not playing with boys anymore. See, Terrell Pryor had a problem with that because he was this young boy who, if you remember, played for Ohio State, and he just ran all over the place. Well, once he got his comeuppance and got into the NFL, he was playing with men. And these guys don't tolerate a lot of this stuff. Just like Johnny Manziel, I think a lot of his problems are mental right now, even though they don't say it. But I think he's getting his head checked, man, as he gets off the alcohol. And he has to be – two of the qualities both of these guys bring into the NFL this year, I think, are leadership qualities. And I think that's what will sustain both of them. Go ahead.
One last thing I wanted to throw in. Don't anyone forget that Ben Roethlisberger had his little escapade.
Yeah, he did.
And
he did.
What matters is, okay, if you're going to have this happen, and this is going to be the case with Manziel, although Manziel, I don't know that he has the physical stature to actually make it in the NFL. Mm-hmm. But he's a good gimmick play type of guy. But the bottom line is, if he comes back, America loves it when people apologize for making a mistake, paying attention to it. And if you prove that by how you conduct your life afterward, that's all forgiven. Yes. All of those things are forgiven. So, that's one thing to keep in mind. But Ben had his problem, too, when he got drafted and was playing at a high level for the Steelers.
And we often forget he went out, and, of course, the motorcycle incident, and then the incident in Georgia. So we don't want to forget.
In Reno.
Yeah, and we want to make sure that we at least, as teammates, get that rectified because, again, we're all about the team and not the individuals. Jimmy Ty from Johnstown, Dave Shannon, Altoona, Chad States, live in Huntington, and yours truly, Greg Banks, in the studio tonight on Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. Give us a buzz if you'd like to discuss anything. 814-619-4286. That's 814-619-4286. We got lots more coming up next in 2 minutes here on the airnetwork.net. Stick around. Need printing services done with quality, on time, and at a reasonable price? Then stop by Images Print Shop in downtown Huntington, where they can help you design and print brochures, business forms, business cards, newsletters, flyers, and so much more. Images Print Shop is your hometown print shop and web hosting service dedicated to excellent and quality service at affordable prices. See what Images Print Shop can do for you online at imagesprintshop.com or call us weekdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 643-1796.
Kick off your appetite with great food from Original Italian Pizza in downtown Huntington, where Bearcat fans huddle up before and after the big game. OIP in downtown Huntington provides your taste buds with appetizers, dinners, pizzas, subs, and so much more. Stop by OIP in downtown Huntington for a sandwich, meal, and cold drinks 7 days a week, or call ahead for takeouts at 643-0665 or 643-0666. OIP in downtown Huntington with the best food and the lowest prices in town.
Hey Frank, some of us are going out for lunch. Want to join?
No thanks. I won't be able to make it for a while. My son's heading to a 4-year university this fall, and I'm watching every penny I can to help him with tuition.
Yeah, that can be so expensive. My daughter decided to go to Pennsylvania Highlands Community College. She'll earn her associate degree in 2 years before transferring to earn her bachelor's. I'll be able to save thousands by her attending Penn Highlands first.
Pennsylvania Highlands, really? My son is stuck on attending a 4-year university right away, far from home.
My daughter was the same until I explained to her that she'd end up with the same degree and far less debt. I don't want to see her starting out her adult life with a lot of debt. Penn Highlands just made the most sense. So, enjoy lunch.
Hey, wait for me.
I thought you couldn't afford to eat out.
That was before you mentioned Penn Highlands. How do I find out how to get my son enrolled?
I'll fill you in over lunch, but start by visiting Pennsylvania Highlands online at pennhighlands.edu.
It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks in the studio, Dave Shannon, Altoona. Chat States live via Skype in Huntington, and Jimmy Ty live in Johnstown. We do this every Monday night. If you'd like to get in the action, call us up, 814-619-4286. That's 814-619-4286. Hey, well, the pitchers and catchers, well, they showed up in camp on Friday. And the rest of the squad for the Buccos, by the way, showed up today down in Bradenton. Dave, I know you got to be excited. Man, I just want to get through winter right now. And this is probably going to be a good year, do you think, for the Buccos this year?
I'll tell you what, I right before the show started, I happened to have ESPN on in the background. I still do. Louisville and Georgia Tech playing to a 10-all tie right now.
There we go.
In that basketball game.
Getting
However,
play.
yeah, however, the guy I saw prior to that on SportsCenter was Joe Madden. Boy, I'll tell you what, a lot of Pirates fans aren't thinking about the Cubs. I think Joe Madden and some of the deals that the team has made in the offseason, look out for the Cubs.
We discussed that, yeah.
Whatever position the Pirates had, I think is going to be taken by the Cubs this year.
What do you think, Chad, on that? Chad and then Jimmy.
Well, to me, I think the Cubs are a year away. They've got a great farm system. I think Joe Madden is a great manager. John Lester's going to help them out tremendously. I still think they're about a year away. But with that said, I think Dave, you got a sense of being right. The Pittsburgh situation, Hensel and Francisco Cervelli, can he handle a pitching staff? Can he be the catcher that, or at least half the catcher that Russell Martin is? Because if he's not, and I don't think that he is, because I watched him play in New York all these years, I think Pittsburgh's going to struggle. I think right now, major league-wise, as far as a 9-man roster or a 9-man lineup, Pittsburgh's stronger right now. But it's that pitching that I think the Cubs might be better at because, listen, you're going to miss Russell Martin.
No doubt.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Jimmy, as they prepare for another season down in Bradenton?
Like Dave said with the Cubs, they're going to be a sleeper team because everybody for the past how many years laughed at Chicago. Joe Madden came in, is coming in, and just look what he did with Tampa. He brought Tampa to, the World Series, I believe?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did.
And, that guy, from Hazleton, PA, Joe Madden,
Yes,
he can manage. He can manage, and with the deals that the Chicago brought in with John Lester, they have Anthony Rizzo at first. They have Castro at shortstop. But Chad also said that they're a year away, and I believe that, they do have a great farm system. But with Pittsburgh, I believe that Pittsburgh isn't going to be as strong as they've been because of the pitching.
Well, they've got
Russell Martin knew how to handle a pitching staff.
There
He
you
knew
go.
whenever
It's
AJ
the key to
Burnett
everything.
would pitch.
Yeah.
Whenever
Yeah.
AJ Burnett would pitch, he knew all that. Now Martin's in with the Blue Jays.
Right.
How's Cervelli going to handle the pitching staff? And that's going to be the key, is that catcher position.
Well, here again, two teams are loaded up in the offseason, and you might be surprised, but we spoke about it maybe a month ago, Chicago and San Diego. So, I mean, they could be in the hunt this year, and we hope that the Pirates are certainly in the hunt as well, as far as they're concerned. Hey, it was announced on Friday, guys, that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao finally, after 5 years, have agreed to fight on May 2nd in Vegas. Now, is this a little too late after 5 years? Will fans flock to watch it in Vegas or pay that money per pay-per-view? Chad first, then Dave, then Jimmy, because I'm not a big fight fan anymore, and this thing was strung out so long, I'm not even interested. How about you?
I'm not, but boxing's not even relevant anymore.
No.
It's a non-existent sport. MMA is taking
Right,
over
thank
for it.
you. Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't exist. So, you know, it's too little, too late. I mean, you know the names. Everybody knows the names because they're out there, but this is a who cares event.
Yeah, I got to agree with Chad, Dave. MMA has taken over culturally. Anybody under 40 years old has no idea about the boxing world at all. They only know, Mike Tyson, for instance, one of the greatest heavyweights of all time in the fight era. Hey, he's just a comedian now. What do you think, Dave? I mean, time has passed us by.
I think so. I sadly, I mean, there's a lot of people that were really big boxing fans over the course of time, and it is an interesting battle to watch.
Yeah.
You know, I don't call it a sport because it's two people beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah, they pummel each other, man.
Yeah. So it's not really a sport. It's just two warriors going at it.
Yeah.
And that for you know the way it's been treated over the course of time, it became somewhat of an elite thing. You know, remember it advanced from just a bunch of regular fans being able to be at a boxing match to you had to dress in tuxedos to get inside seats.
He had to be a celeb like Jimmy Ty and his girlfriend.
There you go.
My girlfriend.
Jimmy, when did you jump into the elite category?
Well, Jimmy, you got to admit, man, the days of the fight era have now passed us. There's guys your age and Chad's age, I mean, don't really even know anything about boxing necessarily. And that MMA, they market their stuff rather well, don't you think, Jimmy?
Oh, yeah, they have pay-per-view events every other month, it seems, for UFC. It'll be UFC 105, John Bones Jones against whoever, Frank Mir. You know that names.
Yeah, well, I didn't know him, but I do now.
No, but growing up, I was a Mike Tyson fan. I would watch all these Mike Tyson's fights.
Yeah.
I remember Larry Holmes. I remember Buster Douglas, for Pete's sake.
My God, one and done, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you know, when I got disinterested in boxing was when, quite honest, Mike Tyson was fighting one night. We all chipped in this money and got this keg of beer and a bunch of food, and we chipped in money for pay-per-view. I go out on the porch to pour a beer while Whitney Houston was singing the national anthem. I think Tyson was fighting one of those Spinks brothers that night. By the time I got back in to watch it, he had already knocked him out. You know
90 seconds.
Yeah, and they were
90 seconds.
And Dave, you know, they used to play that over and over and over again. I think ABC had the rights at the time, or somebody had the rights, and they just played it over for 3 hours, him knocking this guy out. And I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore, you know?
Yeah, boxing was a fun sport when you were growing up. Like, whenever I was growing up in junior high school and that, I loved watching Mike Tyson fight.
Well,
we had talk about Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
We played Mike Tyson's Punch-Out on the Nintendo just about every day, for crying out loud.
That's
but the sport died with him.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah,
it
honest
really
to goodness,
did.
he was the last of the big
Tyson,
superstars, and it died with him.
Well, because you couldn't
Mike
tell
Tyson
who
went to jail. That's when the sport died.
Well, and you couldn't obviously tell who was in. They had the WBO, the WOC. They had so many divisions, and you couldn't keep track of the players. It was so diluted that they killed themselves. Whereas MMA does such a fine job in marketing. And matter of fact, even Vince McMahon, I'm still stuck on the days of WWF and going to the Jaffa Mosque and seeing Andre the Giant, the Junkyard Dog, you know, Rowdy Roddy Piper. I mean, and they do such a good job. And you were talking about pay-per-view every week. Well, hell, you know, wrestling's on somewhere every week. So
every night.
they keep it in front
Almost
of you.
You're right, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Every night, I'll be flipping around the TV, and I'm go, okay, there's Raw.
Yeah.
The next
yeah.
night, there's SmackDown. The next night, there's Raw. I'm like,
And and I don't watch it.
And you're watching commercials, and
Yeah.
it's Randy Orton on the commercial doing whatever he's doing. I'm like,
Well,
wrestling's all over and I still call it WWF.
And Dave,
it's all over the place.
Dave probably remembers the day they had the shows at the Jaffa Mosque, and at the end of the matches,
Also at the War Memorial.
yeah,
too.
the War Memorial, but they had
as you're talking about that, Greg, I watched a WWF match in Spangler, Pennsylvania, at the high school.
Really?
In Spangler, and guess who was part of that card?
Who was a part of that card?
Hulk
Hogan. Yeah, man. Yeah.
In
Thunderlips.
Spangler.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan was in Spangler. For Pete's sake.
Well, in Spangler, I couldn't imagine them being able to hold enough of the fans from WWF at the time. But, they had the Iron Sheik, and all those guys were just famous.
No, San Martino,
yeah.
baby.
Well, one night, matter of fact, I'm coming out after the match, and we're in the back of the arena there, the Jaffa Mosque, and this guy named Adrian Adonis dropped one of his shoes, and he's walking out with, matter of fact, Andre the Giant. They're getting ready to get in a limo and go drinking because that's what those guys did together. They traveled all the time. And I picked up the guy's shoe, and honest to God, the shoe was at least 2 feet long when I handed it to him. I'm like, my God. He shook my hand and covered my whole head. So anyhow, that's my thought on boxing. You can have it, but my prediction is that Mayweather will win this fight. Because, you know what? The bottom line is he is a fighting machine, man. You know what I mean? So
Well, he'll
I see
bet
that
on himself,
happening.
too, so it'll all be good.
Yes, he will. Yeah. And, he got the best of the deal because he could actually dictate how much money these guys. He's getting 60%. Man, he's getting 40.
The funny thing is how this fight started, where Mayweather and Pacquiao were both at a Miami Heat game.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they met, and then
they negotiated.
Yeah. They're both there.
They've been negotiating for years, though, Jimmy. For those 5 years, there was talk of, hey, well, you take a drug test, and then this guy wouldn't take one, and I'm glad that they met at that Miami Heat game. Let me throw this out to you guys as we talk sports here on Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave Shannon in Altoona, Chad States, Huntington, Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. The Nebraska University basketball coach, they've been losing a lot of games lately. So recently he banned his players from using their locker room, and they're not allowed to do interviews following some terrible losses. Now, is this kind of extreme, Chad? I mean, because now I hear this locker room is really exorbitant. Like, it has like the Taj Mahal of college locker rooms. What do you think the thought is? What's the coach thinking here?
Well, I think the coach is delusional to think that Nebraska basketball is ever going to be relevant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Chambers saying, banning Penn State from going down to the Creamery because they're bad basketball.
Yeah.
And they just got beat by Northwestern so bad that nobody should even go to the Bryce Jordan Center to see them the rest of the year.
They're seriously not in the hierarchy of the Big Ten.
They're not in the hierarchy of even the MAC, for crying out loud. The Big Ten really has its top and its bottom. Nebraska's known for football. Period. End of story. They've got great baseball out there too, but their basketball program, it's null and void. The guy needs to be realistic about where he's at. He is not at Kentucky. He is not at Duke. He is not at Kansas. He's a Cornhusker.
Well, I like that idea about the Creamery because that would piss off the Penn State players. They might come back and win a few games, Dave, if they were like shut off of the Creamery. I've got to believe. But have you ever heard of such a thing, or is this just maybe we're getting older and we're like, what? What do you think, Dave?
Why are the players there? Are they there for the locker room? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so that's a nice little enticement.
Yeah.
When you go out to recruit somebody, but are they really there for the locker room?
You shouldn't be in the locker room that long. I mean, not on a practice day, actually,
But the bottom line is, if you're having a problem with your team, it's what they do on the court, and it's not, it's not anything to do with the amenities that surround them.
Yeah. Jimmy, how do you discipline Lucy? Because Lucy was just here a moment ago. Do you say go stand in a corner, time out? I mean, what do you tell her? Because it sounds like this guy's telling his players, time out.
I tell her to go sit on the couch, and I'll say, Lucy, you're in a timeout. Go sit on the couch for 5 minutes, and then she'll go and she'll listen to me because because Lucy's a good girl. But talking about Nebraska basketball, I can only think of 2 players to ever play in the NBA in the past 20 years from Nebraska. From Nebraska.
Who would that be?
Eric Piakowski.
Yeah.
And Tyronn Lue.
Oh, okay. And those 2 guys I've never heard of.
Yeah,
that might be the most amazing fact I have ever heard in my life, Jimmy.
Yeah, see,
to be able to pull who
Jimmy
played
does
in the NBA
a lot
from
of
Nebraska,
research.
That's just tremendous. That is absolutely
You're
the
working
best thing I've ever
overtime,
heard.
Jimmy. Yeah, you got too much information.
Look at Nebraska basketball. It's not like Duke basketball.
Hey, listen.
Look
at their football.
Look at their Michigan State.
Well, look at the culture of Nebraska. Period. Even football now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're not like a real threat any longer, like they used to be back in the heyday.
It's not Tom Osborne days.
Exactly. So anyhow, I just wanted to get you guys to share your thoughts on what this coach was doing because it sounds like timeout. And, somebody cited to me, they have a smoothie machine there. They've got flat screen TVs, iPod connections. It's like, listen, you're a basketball team. You should be out on the floor. You should never be in the locker room. Matter of fact, you live in the cornfield, so we're going to put some outhouses outside. That's how you rectify that.
The Dallas Mavericks. Mark Cuban does the same thing with the Dallas Mavericks. He has iPods. He has TV screens. All that stuff. Well, of course, he's a multi-billionaire.
And he's also in the NBA. He's not a college coach, or
he's not
owner.
A college. He's an owner. And so if he doesn't like you, he's gonna ship you out.
Hey, speaking of cornfields, real quick, and this is a good tie-in, man. If you build it, they will come. Probably one of my most favorite sports movies of all time. Now, following the Oscars last night, Dave, what is your best sports movie of all time? If you can recollect over years, what would you say is your best all-time favorite sports movie?
I took the time to record as it played on a network and remove the commercials and then burn it to a DVD, Field of Dreams. And I'll tell you what, I can watch that movie from now to eternity. Yeah. And when he plays catch with his dad, I get emotional every time I see that. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I was with minor league professional baseball for a number of seasons.
Yep.
And
the Altoona Rail Kings. Yeah.
That movie would make its way onto the bus along with a lot of other different movies, but Field of Dreams always made it on a trip. And when it blew me away, it would be 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody would decide to put Field of Dreams in.
Oh my
These
God.
guys played like 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
And they should be tired as all get out. And the bus would get quiet, and I'd just figure out they're all
these
asleep.
were young guys at that time.
And I thought they were all asleep. I'd walk back through the bus. They're all awake, just glued to the screen to watch Field of Dreams.
Well, Jimmy, what's your favorite of all-time sports movies?
I would say Juwanna Man.
You got me again because I don't know.
I'm joking with you. No, okay. that's a basketball movie. No, but for real, I would say The Natural would be my. I would say The Natural with Robert Redford would be my all-time favorite movie. Would be one of my all-time favorite movies. Whenever he would whenever Hobbs would hit the home run and it smashes the lights and fireworks going off, that's just perfect cinema. And growing up watching baseball and playing baseball. That was your dream, always to hit that home run.
Yeah, man.
Or it to smash the lights.
Or like me when I was saying,
I would say The Natural.
I was a kid down in Stone Creek there, Chad, down by the City League baseball field, 6, 7 years old, hitting rocks with his stick, and I'd even make my own crowd noise like, Hey, Chad, what's your favorite sports movie?
Well, I love the sentimentality, guys. Those movies they're nice, they're soft.
Yeah.
They're very inspirational when you walk away from it.
Yeah.
But I'm going in a whole other direction here, fellas. Now, granted,
here we go.
I think baseball makes the best of the sports movies. I think hockey's right there with it, and then basketball. I think football movies are absolutely terrible. I have a hard time with them. But
how about any given Sunday? I'm just curious about that.
But even that's kind of more on the XFL type of level with the football action.
Yeah.
Listen, for me, this begins and this ends with Major League. Period. End of story.
Funny.
It is the single greatest sports movie I have ever seen in my life. You know, when Harris has to go over to Serrano and say, "Do you mean to tell me that Jesus Christ cannot hit a curveball?" It just begins and ends right there. Bob Uecker, just a bit outside.
Oh, my God.
That's a great movie, yes.
Wild Thing with Charlie Sheen, Corbin Benson playing third base. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. It is one complete 2-hour movie of nothing but belly laughter. It hits it on every level.
Jimmy, who's the guy from Johnstown that was the major league pitcher? Lives up in
Yeah,
what was his name?
Vukovich. Pete Vukovich. He was the first baseman.
Every time I used to see him at Carnival Valley at a basketball or football game, I'd say, "There's that guy that was on Major League."
That is Clu Hayward from the New York Yankees.
And you know what? He played his character because Pete just played himself, because that's Pete, isn't it, Jimmy? That's how he normally acts. Yeah.
Willie Mays Hayes. How many gloves is he going to tack up on the wall?
Oh, my God.
I would
love
say
the sentimentality, guys. Love those movies.
Yeah.
Man, I love Major League.
I got to admit,
Major League also.
I got to admit, one of my favorites of all time has to be, and I know this is one that a lot of coaches play before the playoffs, is Remember the Titans. Oh, geez, who was in that movie?
Denzel Washington.
Was Denzel in that
Washington
movie? You know, that was one of my favorites. You know, of course, Rudy's in there, and we could probably cite a whole bunch of movies. But what's one of the worst movies you ever saw, Jimmy? One of the worst sports movies you just said, "Oh, I'm not watching this crap." I mean, do you have any at the top of your mind? If not, Dave, jump in there, Dave. What's
I would
one of
say
the
Joanna
worst
Man, for real.
Okay, see, that one I don't remember ever seeing.
Joanna Man. It's
Must have been pretty bad.
It's about a pro basketball player who gets cut from his team, and he still wants to play basketball, so he dresses up as a female and starts playing women's basketball. It was a terrible movie.
One of my worst would be White Man Can't Jump, because I was offended.
What?
Yeah, I was kind of offended by just the fact that, Dave, if you remember, in radio, I used to have to play this song called "Dirty White Boy." And it would just send chills up my spine, because I didn't know, I'm in radio. I'm a black guy, and I'm playing this song called "Dirty White Boy" by Foreigner. And I'm like, my God, I don't want to play. It's almost sacrilegious to play that song. Because if somebody decided to come out with the big N word, I'm like, I'm definitely not going to play that one.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I think that although Jimmy has proven that he has gray matter to spare,
yes, he does,
based on the amount of things he's exposed to us, I think tonight in particular, I mean, man, this guy's a walking encyclopedia.
I got to get that copy of Joanna Man now. Holy crap, just to see how good that is.
The bottom line is, I think, because I'm always trying to preserve gray matter, especially as I get older, I think all the sports movies that were bad that I ever watched just left my memory.
Yeah, you deleted them. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to jar your memory with one.
Go ahead, Chad.
Because as great as the original was, and it's number 2 on my list, as great as the original was, the sequel was so bad that you never wanted to watch it again, and that's Caddyshack 2.
Oh, yeah, that was,
absolutely.
Yeah, that had to be
you
a
talk
bad
about
movie.
a movie that, now honestly, it stood no chance of being able to survive against the original.
Oh,
but it was so bad that it should just have never been made.
Yes, true.
By the way, I'm going to throw one in, and I mean, it had its
I
moments.
hate sequels.
Here's my not so favorite one, For Love of the Game.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, that movie just plodded along. I mean, most sports movies.
Can I throw out?
You get background on a particular figure that the movie is about, and it doesn't take that long, and then you get into the game situation or what made it a great story. And it was like, good Lord, this thing plods along.
Yeah, can I really tell you my true sentiments? The worst sports movie of all time would be any Rocky after 1. Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4. I think there's a Rocky 6, isn't there? They're
coming out with one.
Oh, my God. Well, see, the last 5 sucked. Okay, the first one was cool. The first one was cool. I could deal with that. But after that, it just went downhill. The older Stallone got, the worse they got. I'm serious.
Rocky Balboa.
Oh, my God.
Rocky Balboa, his last one he made.
He should be
he
dead.
Was trained, whenever he was fighting Tarver, no, that was bad.
Yeah. Well, any movie that he's in now or Arnold's in, I'm just not watching it, man. I just can't stomach that. And, and I got to admit, now that I see Chuck Norris doing those exercise machine infomercials, I'm like, Chuck, just go for the money. Don't come back to television or movies. Just make the cash. You know what I mean? So anyhow, I really appreciate you guys sharing that with me. Your best and worst movies of all time when it comes to sports. I'm surprised nobody mentioned Rudy. Jeez. It's Monday Night Sports Talk. Greg Banks in the studio. We got Dave Shannon in Altoona. Chad States, Huntington, Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. We got more to talk about. We got Penn State. We got some Pitt stuff and a whole lot more, so stick around. Coming up next.
The Burns Law Firm is an experienced law firm located at 104 South Center Street in Evansburg, just steps away from the Cambria County Courthouse. Attorney Tim Burns and his staff will provide you with professional expertise in DUI, family law, personal injury claims, plus other areas of law at reasonable rates and fees. Contact Attorney Tim Burns for a consultation by calling 814-471-1701 or online at www.attytimburns.com. For more
Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479.
Steiner, 4 miles east of Huntington on Route 22, is keeping it fresh daily with great food at a great value for family and friends in a fun atmosphere. From their fresh-cut French fries, home-baked pies, and their home-style cooking, Top Steiner is the #1 destination for many hungry appetites. Stop by Top Steiner for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and great service 7 days a week. Top Steiner, east of Huntington on Route 22 for excellent service and delicious home cooking at a great value every day.
If you're searching for a used vehicle or perhaps a used boat for a leisurely trip on the lake, find them today online at penswoods.net. From things for sale or things to buy, the free classifieds at penswoods.net have it all. From houses for sale, apartments for rent, or even things to trade. Penswoods.net is the region's largest site for free classifieds. Check it out today and make money or save money at penswoods.net.
I'm coming home.
What does sacrifice mean to you? Is it giving up your time and energy to keep America safe? Is it putting yourself in harm's way to protect our nation's way of life? No? Then maybe it's giving up that third latte to take care of the heroes that do.
The VFW makes it easy to help. Just call 1-855-9-HELP-VET. That's 855-9-HELP-VET.
The VFW. No one does more for veterans.
This message brought to you by the Huntington VFW Post 1754 on Penn Street. Oh, if you could only kind of listen in on our conversations during these breaks, it's just fabulous. I learned so much stuff. Thank you, guys. Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Chad States, Huntington, Jimmy Ty in Johnstown, and Greg Banks live in the studio tonight. It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. We do have a line you can call us on, by the way. It's free, I understand. 814-619-4286. 814-619-4286. And by the way, guys, before I forget, everybody can always listen to our podcast. We keep them up for a week on the front page, or you can click on podcast at www.theairnetwork.net and listen back to the show if you miss us live. We were just talking about some interesting stuff. Of course, the worst, the best movies of all time regarding sports. Boxing coming to prominence with Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather's kind of dying off. Let me ask you this, Chad, as we kind of move into some local stuff, Penn State wrestling. I see where Missouri clinched a perfect regular season NCAA finals yesterday against Iowa, 18-12 in the national dual finals. How does Penn State fare against somebody like Missouri when we find them probably in the individual finals coming up very shortly?
Not very well this year.
No.
Missouri has a couple kids. They have a 125-pounder that's ranked number 1 in the nation. They have a 149-pounder who just beat the number 2 ranked kid in the nation, so he'll probably be now in the top 3.
Yeah.
And they have a 197-pounder in Jaden Cox, who's a defending national champion.
Oh,
so
I watched him yesterday.
Yeah, and he's
Fabulous.
he's a beast. That guy is very, very big. And also, as you start to look down through their lineup, they got 2 other guys that are ranked 5th in the nation. So Missouri has a really nice lineup this year, but we knew that going into the season with Penn State. They were going to redshirt a couple guys.
Yeah, you said
that was going to hurt their chances to go for their 5th in a row. Now, let's not forget, they just won 4 in a row. So you're going to have a downturn here.
Well, we talked about ineligibility or redshirting people. What was the reason behind the redshirting of these guys for Penn State again? I don't remember you saying why.
Well, it's time. Zane Rutherford, their 141-pounder who finished 5th in the nation last year, was a true freshman wrestling. So most of the time you're going to see freshmen redshirt. He didn't get the opportunity because they had that 4th title sitting there, and Zane gave him a great shot to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Nico Megaludis, their 125-pounder, who's finished 2 times in the finals as a second place, as a runner-up guy, and never took a redshirt. So he came right out of high school and started to help that 4-year run within national. So those guys, they're deserved a break. They're deserved their time to go off to some of these other tournaments and try to make themselves better, either on the international circuit or to get ready for the next season. So I think that's part of the decision. And secondly, it's all about how you're going to line up the years to come. As they take a break this year, when you start to look at next year's lineup and the year after, as those guys come back off a redshirt, Penn State's right in the national title hunt as a number 1 or number 2 ranked team in the nation starting next year. So it all just kind of makes sense.
Okay, so they're using a little strategy and a little
Absolutely.
Thinking ahead. Hey, let me ask you this. They did senior day yesterday, of all people. I think they played they wrestled Ryder.
Yep.
And I don't know. Okay, so how did it work out for the Nittany Lions in the course of the last week since we last spoke to you?
Well, and they won that one pretty handily, 30-3. But what you got to understand about Cale Sanderson, he's out to promote the sport of wrestling.
Yeah.
And he will take a team like Ryder, and he'll wrestle him at Penn State, but he'll also wrestle him at Ryder to be able to get a big, large crowd to come out to watch that.
Oh yeah.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because that helps the sport of wrestling. Penn State's a big name. So, and Cale Sanderson is the name in wrestling. So if he's able to take his Nittany Lions squad into New Jersey, or take him out to, they wrestled Utah State a couple years ago.
Yeah.
They've wrestled some smaller schools. He's out to promote the sport of wrestling, and by what it looks like, taking a completely overmatched, a team against, Ryder or something like that, he's really trying to make it a lot better.
Well,
and I applaud him for his efforts.
Yeah, and one thing he did at Rec Hall yesterday, which was kind of interesting, I understand he used some seniors who really had not gotten on the mat basically all year.
Well,
yesterday.
What you saw yesterday is pretty much going to be his lineup moving into the NCAAs.
Okay.
You saw Luke Fry at 157 pounds, and yes, he's not been used a lot, but that's because the Alton situation has presented themselves where they need to get somebody at 157.
Yeah.
Jimmy Lawson at heavyweight. Well, Lawson just beat out John Gingrich from Bonneville area in a wrestle-off. So he was pretty much trying to set his lineup for the NCAA. So I think what you saw is what you get. 157, they're going to wrestle off again.
Mm-hmm.
Fry was able to beat Cody Law from Forest Hills.
Yeah.
So it's going to be in the wrestle-off. So it's going to be Fry versus Dylan Alton to see who gets that other spot as they head into Big Tens in 2 weeks.
Well, let me ask you this then as we kind of wrap up wrestling. The Bearcats get ready to wrestle in the regionals. How many guys we taking, and what are their chances look like?
Well, they are sending 7 guys out to Cannon McMillan this weekend.
Wow.
They have two of them are ranked in the top 2 or seated in the top 2.
And who are those guys? There you go.
Colin Glorioso at 120 pounds is the number 1 ranked kid in his bracket.
Yeah.
And Jacob Oliver at 152 pounds will be seated at number 2.
Yeah.
So both those kids are slated to make the final. I really don't see anything in their path to change that at this point in time. So, Huntington's going to be in contention for 2 regional champions. And it looks like they're probably in strong contingency to move at least 4, maybe 5 kids off to states this weekend. So it'll be a pretty good showing for Huntington.
So we actually have regionals happening at Cannon McMillan this weekend, and then the states happen, next weekend?
Yep, that'll be in 2 weeks.
All right, best of luck to John Wycott and Bearcats, Wrestling Bearcats. Hey, Dave, talking about some stuff that's cold, man. The ice was hot this weekend with Penguins winning a couple of games. Are you kind of satisfied now that they got the line straight, or what?
No, because the line should have been made straight about 5 games ago.
Okay.
I mean, the guy behind the bench is not the guy for that team.
Exactly, okay.
I'm sorry. I mean, and it's too late. We talked about this last week. It's too late to make a change. And I'm telling you, what did Dan Bilesma always got hammered for not making decisions quickly enough?
Yeah.
This guy just went and let them go into a 12-game tailspin. And all of a sudden now, because he makes a line change, you see a difference on the ice. The team scores 5 goals, back-to-back, and, 4 in the one and then 5 in the other. But because of changing up the lines, I saw Dan Bilesma do that in a game, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is trying to manage professional NHL players like they're junior league players or college players. And I'll tell you what, I sat, congratulations to Penn State. They got a nice win at Pagula Arena over the weekend against Minnesota. I watched that game, but I'll tell you what, it was painful to watch because you understand the difference between the NHL and college hockey.
Okay.
Those guys looked like they were skating on slush. But that aside, maybe that's the venue for Mike Johnston. It's not the NHL.
Well, let's talk about
not suited for that job.
Okay, let's talk about performance on the ice. Jimmy, one of your boys was in net on Friday night, and he looked really good to back up to Fleury.
Right.
And I don't know, was Downey out there this weekend at all, Dave?
Yes, he played
yesterday. He was.
Okay.
He played yesterday.
So who do you guys see as having a spectacular weekend? First you, Dave, and then Jimmy, because, they didn't look bad over the weekend, Dave.
They turned a corner. It's disappointing that it took so long for this kind of change. And I'll tell you what, the guy that's kept them in such, in position in some of these horrible games that they played has been Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yes.
The only thing I worry about with Fleury is that he has, we're all worried about his mental state and how well it holds up.
Yeah.
I hope he's not peaking too early because when you look at how many recently Stanley Cups have been won by teams that have goalies that we all affectionately refer to as being unconscious during the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah. I hope Marc-Andre is not peaking too early.
You can imagine some guys get tired rather quickly, Jimmy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, didn't they play 3 games in a row? But I know 2 games. One was on the road, and then they had to fly to Pittsburgh and play at 6 o'clock last night. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
They played St. Louis. In St. Louis, there was an 8 o'clock start time, our time, since there was like an hour behind.
Right.
And then they got on the plane, flew back, and they played the Florida Panthers last night. But the guy that I say right now who is keeping that team together, in my opinion, is that Patrick Hornquist. He had 2 goals against. He had 2 goals against St. Louis. Mm-hmm. He had another 2 goals against Florida. He's heating up. I also look at a play.
Another one out there, Jimmy. How about Blake Como?
Blake Como, he's another one. Brandon Studer, he's another one.
But I did think of you, Dave, whenever they mentioned Hornquist's name because he was skating rather exceptionally over the weekend, man.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a line, there's a line change there. He's up with Crosby.
Yeah.
And so that makes a difference in his game now. And, you would hope that would happen no matter what line he was on. But he's up there with Perron and Crosby, and, man, he's just taking advantage of that situation.
Well, let me ask you, how do they really determine what is the best line, especially you're in the middle of a season? You don't really have, many opportunities other than to play to test out these lines. Are they keeping some kind of analytics or something? I mean, how's that work?
There are analytics, and there are other things, too. You got to look at how the other team is putting their lines out on the ice during the course of a game because you're looking at physical matchups during the course of the game. And you got to adjust as the game is going on.
Yeah.
If you see that the Crosby line is having a problem with a particular line that the other team is sending out, then you make sure that Crosby's line's not out there, if at all possible, when that line's out there.
Yeah.
You try to manage within the game how you send your lines out.
Yeah, it looks like Florida got caught up a couple of times yesterday with not enough guys on the ice. I mean, like they didn't make those line changes quickly enough or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, let's see how Pittsburgh does whenever they play the Washington Capitals. I think that's their next game. And
Wednesday
the goalie,
night.
The goalie for Washington has only given up one goal against Pittsburgh in nine periods.
Are you serious? Oh my
God!
God!
One goal in 9 periods.
So when's the next time?
Holtby's hot in general right now too, Jimmy.
Yeah. When's the next time the Pens are out again? It's not tonight,
Wednesday.
right? Wednesday
night.
Yeah. Well, we'll be watching for the Penguins, and of course, wishing them the best as they get ready to, of course, go through the stretch here on this season. Hey, meanwhile, guys, thank you for being on Monday Night Sports Talk. Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Chad States in Huntington, and Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. By the way, if you missed the live show, well, that means you're probably listening to us on demand on our front page, guys. Hey, what do you got going on this weekend, Chad? Anything?
Nope, not much at all. Just staying at home and enjoying this nice, beautiful weather outside.
Well, because of the weather, that's why I'm asking all these questions to see if you're doing anything better than me. How about you, Dave?
I'm taking dynamite out and blowing up all the ice that's on any stream that I want to fish.
Okay, well, good luck and let me know. I'll come up once you get it loosened up. Hey, Jimmy, what you got going on, man?
Spending time with my daughter, Lucy, before I take her back to her mom's house.
Well, I told you she's getting big, man. You're not going to be able to lift her up much longer unless you start working out, buddy. Hey, matter of fact, I got the perfect person. I got his phone number. I'll give it to you. Carlton Hasselrick said he'll work your ass out.
All right, that's perfect.
All right, guys, have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in to Monday Night Sports Talk here on the AirNetwork.net. So long.